So hey guys, my name is Humbles. A lot of us are new to this game. It just came out like 3 weeks ago, right? Of course, there's some people who've been playing since the beta. I think the beta's been around for, I don't know, a year. It seems like a lot of people are having issues with figuring out what monsters are good at the moment. New game, everything looks weird to us. A lot of us come from a hero collecting background of from other games from different developers and stuff like that. This one seems to be a lot more intense, action packed, very strong game, and it can be very confusing for both the people who play games like these before and people who have never played these games before. The one thing I have to say is that this game is not easy. It takes a little bit of skill to understand what works and what does not. For example, some mechanics of the game requires you to change your team out, especially in the tower, and then depending on which one of the dungeons you're in. So I want to hopefully help people out by creating some YouTube videos that will guide you through the process of learning this game. I'm still learning it. I've only been here for 2.5 weeks, but I'm pretty far into the game already. I already beat the story, beat the tower through 105 floors, beat all the dungeons through floor 10. So hopefully through what I experienced, I can give you a better chance of getting further into the game. If I were to give out some very basic tips, don't give up on it. Some of the content may seem hard. It can be hard, but you need to learn how certain units work. You have to read the units. You can't just throw in a random unit and expect it to work. Right now I'm using, in this gameplay, is 2 assassins, 2 ranges, and then a healer. My 2 front lines are both assassins, and they both interrupt targets, and they both airborne, and one of them knocked down. My back heroes are constantly chaining on to them to make sure that your range units link up with your melee. I don't use a tank at this point in the game because it's a little bit lower level content. Another thing is, don't waste gold on gear less than 60 star. Most of the gear you get between 1 and 5 star is complete trash. You're gonna replace it almost immediately after you start getting your 6 star. The jump between each grade is immense. Like, it's not even worth unequipping and selling. That's how bad they are at 5 star and below. The moment you get a 6 star or green 6 star, you can literally just destroy whatever you have on there and you'll be good. Like, it's not worth removing. To get the 6 stars really fast, I found myself doing Dragon Frontier, the very first act area, and I did that all the way up to Master. You can get there at a relatively low power. I'm going to speak about power later, maybe in a different video, because that takes a little bit of extra explanation, but you can beat Master Act 1 at a relatively low power, about 50 to 60,000 power rate, as long as your units actually work together. I did it with 1 tank, 1 gladiator, 2 melees, and a healer. Once you hit expert 4 or 5, you can once in a while get a 6 star green, maybe a blue, but mostly 5 star. And then as soon as you hit master, those blue 6 stars start dropping more. As you progress further into the story, you'll definitely start seeing a lot more, especially in the higher difficulty areas. Like right here, I'm doing what is this? The 6th area, and this is already a orange piece of gear. 6th area, master 1 maybe. It has attack and some HP, so it's pretty good Songweaver gear. So if you have a Groot, I call him Groot, he's Absalin or something like that, this is something that you'll put on him, because he scales off of attack for his heals, and you want him to have good HP. The next tip I will say is I really want to emphasize reading your skills. Not every unit, like I said, not every unit works off each other. For example, my gunner, the little acorn guy, his name is Fire Mooming. He does not really work with these 2 guys, but usually for something like him, you'll want a stunner. Because if you read their skills specifically, the link Usually the third or fourth skill is a counter, a link, an auto, or a leader skill. When it comes to range units, you want to look at their link. The unit will link based off the type of status your gladiator or assassin will do. Pretty much the first skill, or it usually says it on the actual assassins or gladiator. For example, Ren, the unit you start off with, does knockdown, highlighted in yellow. So that's a status effect. And when you're picking a range unit, a melee unit, you want to make sure that they link together. So for this guy, he works best with Apollo or any other unit that's stunned, such as Milla or Koasis or whatever his name is, and they both do stuns. The reason why that's important is if you don't link them, you're doing exponentially less DPS damage per second. And with less DPS, your run's going to take a lot longer, and there's a good chance you might actually fail because you cannot dish out the damage that is required to finish that content. Some of the bosses, they heal. Some of the bosses, they deal a crap ton of damage after a certain amount of time that you spend in the dungeon, such as Fang 10. If you spend too much time on that boss, he will one-shot your entire team. So you want to actually burst him down as fast as you can. First Shrine, similar, but you can survive longer without having to worry about him one-shotting your time. He will one-shot your melees pretty easily, mostly because I don't know why, he just does it. Bosses such as the Razor Claw Shrine, they're a little bit simpler to be. The only thing that you have to worry about is his jump attack. He could one shot. He does chain. Usually like to focus on your back line a lot when it comes to his chains. But besides that, he's a simple boss. Another thing when it comes to deciding what unit to use, when you actually go to this page, you need to read the boss's skills. Every boss is different. Sometimes they change, especially the guild dungeons. They change a lot, and the guild dungeons are really hard. Take a lot of effort to figure out how to beat them. For the main three dungeons, if you read them, they actually tell you what they're resistant to, what kind of damage they do, what kind of status they do, what kind of mez effect being chain, sleep, confused. And it's really dangerous when some bosses, because when you have a chained unit or a sleep unit, they do additional damage on top of that, which will one-shot almost any unit in the game. Specifically for Razor Claw, he has pretty decent magical resistance because of his iron defense. So for that, if you decide to use magical units, you need to give high penetration to them for magical attacks, or else I recommend using dots and physical damage units. Apollo works really well as a starter unit if you ever get him. His divine skill just bleeds through his defenses. For the Shrine, I definitely recommend a Viper, specifically a Dark Viper. Your melees will die, so it doesn't matter which. I recommend using Gulen, because he gives you a 30% attack boost to your dungeon team. You can use him in actually all three of the dungeons for that boost. He's not going to do much for you when it comes to his special skill. You're mainly using him for his damage boost. As for your other units, to be honest, any frontline unit will die. I haven't figured out a way to survive any frontline units. He just does too much damage as it is. So just focus on using like range units such as Dark Viper. He chains, so a Fire Leah, Water Leah, some kind of Leah will help a lot. Let's see. Those two alone will carry you through them if you 5-star them and give them good care to their skills and stuff and their equipment. Besides that, you can possibly throw in a third melee if you have one. Maybe if you have Nora still, you can throw in Nora as well. For the Fang, I find this one to be obviously the most difficult, not only because it's the highest powered one. The frenzy that this boss does is completely stupid. He will one-shot your entire team, no matter how much HP he has. Like for the Fang, definitely recommend bringing in, farming up this guy, Gulen. He gives you that damage boost that you need, and you will need to magical damage boosters at least. He is able to get knocked down and airborne. I recommend using airborne units. So Golan is perfect. If you farm the Fervus event and you got Fervus, he can work as well. He cannot be silenced though, so that skill is useless. Just the fact that he pretty much puts airborne on the boss all the time is good enough. The magical damage, you want burst damage. If you're lucky enough to get a Jorgen, get him. Leo might be a good option. LeMay, Scarlet is definitely always a good option. And that's pretty much all I could think of at the top of my head that will burst down this boss really fast. Jorgen is just a cheap one-shot, one-kill against him if you divine him. What I like to do, if you have a Jorgen, get rid of all your other range and just let Jorgen do all the work. He will put it on tactic for all-out attack and just let him divine the boss, and that boss will die in one hit. So, but if you're not lucky enough to have him, use your Leona, use your Scarlet if you have one. Maybe throw in a Leo, but you need magical damage and a lot of it. So. Those are the main three bosses. So that's going to conclude my first video. It's not much, I feel. I'm bugged out. It's not much, but I will continue to make more videos. Let me know in the comment section what kind of videos you like, what you need help in, like what tips you need, and I will try my best to get back on that as fast as I can. My name is Humbles, and thank you for watching, and hope you guys enjoy.